KAKU 88.5 FM.
Okay, here we go.
Kahului, Maui.
Quiet, please.
The voice of Maui.
Welcome to The Nature of Your Nature. Come home to You Know More with Dr. Valerie Simonson on KAKU 88.5 FM, the voice of Maui, broadcasting from Akaku Maui Community Media Center in downtown Kahului. Aloha! Welcome to The Nature of Your Nature. Thank you for joining us today. You are a treasured guest, and I am so glad that you're here to hear what we have to say, but also to listen to your own heart. The nature of your nature, what does that really mean anyway? Well, I think I had shared this before, but what I found is that there is this innate wisdom within each one of you. And as we drop into that innate wisdom and allow our life to operate from that rather than perhaps those outside things, we call them the they, the them, where we can let those go and come home to ourselves, our truths, our life is a lot more pleasant. Maybe, maybe not, because when we do tend to speak up, some people really don't like that. But today, we're here to talk about self-sovereignty. Self-sovereignty. That's a big word. I can't even spell it. And I tell you, I've been working years on trying to be it. And my history is a long history. There was a lot of violence and sexual assault. And growing up in the 70s, the 80s, where women maybe were allowed to do some things, but for the most part, no, you did what you were told. And not as much as, let's say, my mother's generation. But during that time of growing up, I grew up in Montana, I ended up working with this amazing doctor in Bozeman, Montana. His name was Dr. Lemons. And Dr. Lemons specialized in sexual assault. And when I started working with him, he had me working with the people that were the abusers, which was really difficult for me to be in the same room as these people. But I did it. And then he says, we want to take this to the prison, Montana State Prison. And I'm like, I don't need to do that. I'm healed from this. I don't need to go any further with this. And then one day I went, no, you need to go. So I went with Dr. Lemons to the prison over there in Deer Lodge, Montana. Scared. And when I finally got through all the checks and all of that kind of thing, I was in a room with 19 men, and they were all in there for sexual assault. And the first guy sitting to my left, well, before I go to that guy, there were rules. You couldn't touch anybody. You could say anything you wanted, but you couldn't touch anybody. So the first guy to my left said, my name is so-and-so, and this is what I did, and my parole's up in such and such time. The next guy, same thing. Shared, same thing. Went around the room. Every one of them, this is what I did, and this is when my parole is. By the time it came to me, I was furious. I was absolutely furious. And I said, my name is Valerie Simonson, and I was molested from the age of 2 to 12, and there's no bleep, bleep, parole. And then I don't even remember what I said. But pretty soon I felt somebody touching my shoulder. It was Dr. Lemons, and he said, Valerie, you need to calm down a little bit. And as I looked around the room, the majority of men in the room were sobbing. Some of them on the ground, absolutely sobbing. They had to bring in more medical professionals to work with these men. And as it was supposed to be an hour meeting, right? And it ended up hours, all afternoon. But these men were able to share their stories. And there was one man that wouldn't share his story, though. He had sexually abused, and murdered a number of women. And he was up for parole in 40 years. And that guy wouldn't take his sunglasses off and look me in the eye, which really irked me, right? But in that whole process, that brought up this something inside of myself, which was, I'm going to stand here. I'm going to speak my truth, right? And so we ended up with the event, and I remember going into a room with all these doctors, and they brought me mint chocolate chip ice cream, my favorite, and we did a debriefing. And in that debriefing, we went through each man's case, and we talked about them. And the guy that wouldn't take off his sunglasses, they said, well, what do you think? And I said, he'll recommit. He's going to be out in 40 years. He'll recommit. I know he will. I just know he will. And the doctors talked, and they brought in the warden, and they did all of this kind of stuff. And they decided, you know what? We're going to do something about that. So they marked his file parole denied. Well, I left that place, and I got back to my home, and my partner, he met me at the door, and he said, what have you been up to today? And I said, not much. And he said, what did you do today? And then I shared with him that because of what happened to me as a child, I was put in a prison by my mind, that there was no way out. And as I drove away from that prison that evening, the sun was going down in the rearview mirror, and I felt the walls of the prison I had put myself in fall as well. And that's what my partner noticed when I walked in the door. He says, you're not the same woman that left this morning. No, I wasn't. I wasn't the same woman. And it was only a short period of time that our relationship changed very quickly, because I had changed so radically. I no more needed him to protect me, to always be there, to take care of things that I couldn't. I had found a voice. And that's what all of you right now are being invited to do, is to find your voice and use it. And use it in whichever way that is right for you. Some people march, some people play music, some write poetry. Whatever it is, share your voice. Well, what is self-sovereignty? That means that you get to have complete control over your body, over your decisions, over your life. But there is the opposite of that, and that is servitude. And a lot of us on this planet have been put in that prison of servitude, that you need to be in control or be controlled by someone else. Well, today I'm going to invite you to think about, what has your mind, what have your thoughts done for you that have put you in some sort of a prison? Just take a breath right now and think about, what are some of your belief systems? And then I'm going to bring that back to the earth. Now, the earth is going through the same issues that we are. Things are happening to the earth that's out of the earth's control as we see it. But as we note, there are things that are getting our attention. Fires, water, floods, winds, typhoons, all of these things, earthquakes. All these things are happening to the earth right now. But guess what? They're happening to you too. Because if you're in this time of history, there is no way, unless you're really, really over-medicated, that you're not having some kind of an awakening within yourself and understand, you know what, that doesn't work for me. Maybe this does, but this doesn't. And so right now I'm going to just invite you to think about some of the things that you've done in your life that has kept you in alignment with the nature of your nature. So as you can see in the background here, we have tea leaves. And I picked those tea leaves a couple weeks ago. And the tea leaves are a sacred plant in Hawaii. And I put them in some water. And now the roots are starting to sprout. And my plan is that I will plant these tea leaves when I finish this purification program that I'm going through. But this morning when I went to get the tea leaves, I noticed, man, there's a lot of those that have died. A lot of the leaves have died. That's what happens to us too. Our outdated beliefs, behaviors, actions, they are going to have to go because they don't serve you any longer. So the other day I had a situation where I had a little bit of resentment that somebody was asking me for XYZ after probably 20 times telling them what XYZ was. And I realized, you know what? This is not good for me. This is not good for me. So I promptly found someone to refer them to that can actually field those kind of things, those kind of questions, and be attentive, because this person 100% deserves that, right? But bringing it back to me, my needs were, I don't want to do that anymore. I've been doing that for a long time. I want to do something else. I want to be here at Akaku at KAKU 88.5 FM, Maui, Hawaii, talking to you. This is what really is my passion. So again, thank you for joining me today. But we want to talk about our bodies. So in our body is this community. We have a community. We have a community out there, right? Right now I'm in Kahului, Maui, and there's a community. There's people. There's Tony out here in the technical room. There's Susie over at the desk. We have a community. But we each have a community in our bodies. Our bodies, this place where we live. Now, if you haven't heard that concept before, I want to just give the acclimates to Andrea Marino that taught me that years ago. This body, this place where you live. And one of our guests recently, Lisa Carey, she was doing a program on the shoulder and the shoulder girdle with somatics. Now, I used to be a baseball player, and a lot of damage to my shoulder. And I didn't want to have surgery, so there's still a lot of scar tissue in there. And as she's doing this program with us, somatics, which means the cells of your body, I had 100% awareness that I didn't know that my arm was even attached to my body. I could make my arm move, but I wasn't aware of my arm, which was life-changing to me. And that's when I realized I need to slow down. Have any of you been thinking about maybe it's time for you to slow down a little bit and maybe go with the natural rhythm of the universe rather than trying to make things happen? Maybe it's time we just slow down a little bit and come back to our bodies, these bodies, the place where you live. So what if we do that? Okay, I didn't even realize I had an arm over here. I didn't realize I had a shoulder, right? But what I did was the simple things of the ABCs. Awareness, alignment, breath, bodification, connection, and communication. So through my breath, I was able to move my arm, even though it was painful, very painful. I moved my arm, which was the bodification, and then I communicated with my body. And the first thing I did to my body, my shoulder, was I told it, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I love you, which is the ancient tradition in Hawaii of Ho'oponopono. Yeah? Please forgive me. I'm sorry. I love you. And as soon as I communicated with my shoulder dropped to the floor. It just, it relaxed. As I was laying on the floor, it just relaxed. So as we communicate with our body is our teacher as well. And if there's pain somewhere, that's a message. And it can be a physical message. Oh, you know what? Your shoe is too tight. Or whatever it is that the body is telling you. Or it may be a subtle thing as well. And this body that you're in communicates with the soul, our spirit, and also with the mind. And so as we communicate with the body, we have a community, the community I talked about earlier. We've got our breathing, our respiratory system, our circulatory, that's our blood, our heart, our blood vessels. We have our bones, we have our skin, we have our lungs. I think I talked about the lungs, I said that earlier, but we have all of these systems, and what they do is they work together. But when there's something out of balance, what we see is a thing we call dis-ease, an imbalance of some kind. So I want you to think about your body. Is there any part of your body right now that's saying, you know what? I need some attention here. Try just for a second. Even if you're driving, just think about it. Is your lower back hurting? What's the message that the body is telling you? And then just drop deeper into that part of your body and do what Lisa Carey talked about. Bring a smile. Bring a smile to that area. And I've really been practicing all of these things that Lisa's been teaching. I had a neck injury, pretty serious neck injury, and it is painful most of the time. And I don't take the synthetic drugs for, I think you do acupuncture and things like that. And the surgery's not an option because it would probably paralyze me. And what I've been practicing with is bringing that smile to that part of my body, my neck. And the more I practice that, the calmer my neck is. There is less pain. So that what's it saying is basically awareness, alignment. Now, what can we do once we connect with that part of the body is take it that step further and ask your body, that part of your body. I just had someone the other day that had a heart issue. And I said, let your heart tell us what's going on here. And they said, my heart is broken. With everything that's happening on the planet right now, my heart is broken. And then we just took that little adventure of going and visiting with her heart, apologizing to her heart, and then asking her heart to tell me more, tell me more. And that's what you can do with your body. Just stay in communication. As if you were talking to a little 3 or 4-year-old. You know, you've got to kind of pull out things out of a little 4-year-old, 5-year-old, right? By paying attention to them. Same thing with these bodies where we perhaps haven't been paying attention to, right? So as she communicated with her heart, she realized it wasn't her was the issue. It wasn't her heart. It was an outside situation. An outside situation, which I'm going to call they, them. And I love what Mel Robbins has written, Let Them, the book Let Them. That's a great book. She took them and they out of her heart and just took them out of her heart. And she instantly had relief. instantly. Now, some could say, oh, yeah, that can't be true, blah, blah, but it is. I've seen it hundreds of thousands of times. When we communicate with our body will be our friend. And one of the favorite things that I love doing is working with a condition, as we know, as cancer. And what I encourage people to do is find whatever that is, that dis-ease, and let's have a communication with it and ask it, what does it need? Then always give them a name. And I think about one of my people just recently, she named hers Bob. And what Bob needed was space. But also Bob was really sad about something that had happened to this woman when she was a small child. They were doing medical experiments on her. So she's in her 80s or something. And so as the client was communicating with Bob, really hearing what Bob was saying, her body started to shift. When the time came for the surgery, the surgeon was amazed. 6-pound tumor. They figured a 13-hour surgery took 3 hours. All he had to do was open her up and reach in and take it out. But she had communicated with that dis-ease and also gave it permission to go. Not telling it to go, giving it permission to go. It didn't need to hold that story any longer. And that's what we all have the opportunity to do, is communicate with our bodies. And when we communicate with our bodies and really hear our bodies, feel it, smell it, taste it, all of those things, all the senses come alive in our body, what happens is that the earth will benefit. Also will the community. Also will the globe. Because we are in alignment with our soul's purpose. And if we can remember to use kindness as much as possible, and you can say all kinds of things that have a lot of power. I remember over at the fires, there was a minister, I try to think of his name right now. He came one morning to give us a poulet, and he says, say what you mean, but don't say it in a mean way. And that really struck me. And I've held that because I have a lot of things to say, and you do too, I'm sure. But how do we say what we mean without saying it in a mean way? Just think about that for a second. I guarantee you there is going to be somebody that is going to disagree with you. That's just the nature of humans. And while I'm talking about that, nature of humans, I'm babysitting chickens right now. And there's only 10. All females, great layers, beautiful eggs. Every morning, there's 1 or 2 that when I get to the gate, their presence is so demanding and very threatening that I have to stick something through there and throw it to get them away from the gate so I can get in. And I've watched over the time of these chickens, especially this one, very strong chicken, they will attack the other chickens. If there's let's say a piece of kale over in the corner, one will go for it, but then all of them will go over there. And then the big one tends to get that one, gets that kale, right? And we as humans are an awful lot like chickens. Somebody else is getting more than me. And when we really look at the bottom line of that, and I've talked to these chickens, like especially this one chicken, I don't know its name, but I said, what need do you have? What need do you have? that can make it so that you feel that you're being cared for, you're being heard, right? Well, this is a chicken. Come on, give me a break, Valerie. Talking to a chicken, right? It's the same thing with people, though. We all have needs. We need shelter. We need water. We need autonomy. And I can talk more and more about all the needs, but I'm going to stop on autonomy. I have had to look that up so many times. Do you know what it means? Basically, self-sovereignty, which means freedom to be yourself. Freedom to be yourself. And as I say that, I think about when I came to Maui decades ago. Everybody's asking, what's your specialty? What's your specialty? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just do so much. But what is it that really, really is I do? Is I offer a space where people can be authentic. And thus the term on my business card was, may you always have the freedom to be yourself. May you always have the freedom to be yourself. Let that land. May you always have the freedom to be yourself. And then think about yourself and the resiliency that you have, especially over the last 2 years. Well, longer than that. COVID knocked us in the dirt, right? And I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. What COVID did for us was bring us down to our truths. And you know what? I'm not gonna allow that anymore. This doesn't work for me. This does work for me, right? So as we come back to another sneeze here, pardon me. Oh, so unprofessional. Oh, sorry about that. The need for autonomy, the need for your self-sovereignty, it's not a want, it's a need. Now, how do you achieve that? How do you achieve that? One, make wise choices. If I take white sugar and a syrup, ice, what do you call that? Shave ice with lots of sugar, my body isn't going to do so well. And no one else's does either. This morning I noticed there was a little boy walking with his mom, and the little boy could smell the ice cream shop in Makawao. And he immediately wanted to go in there, and I went, wow, this little kid's got a good nose. He could smell that ice cream, right? And I tried to talk to the little guy. He was pretty shy, so I went on my way. But later, I was in a store, and he and his mom came in, and the little guy was cranked. He was cranked to the max. And I said, oh, did you find some ice cream? To the mom, and she said, yeah, and we got a scone and a biscuit or something like that. And I'm watching that little guy, and I went, whoa, yeah. His behavior was very aggressive. Now the mom said, oh, he's tired. And I'm like, yep, okay, tired, true. But really, what had happened, that sugar hit his system, and that sugar assaulted him. When we think of what happened to native tribes all over the world with the introduction of sugar, wow. And if you don't know about that, I encourage you to read the history about that. And with that being said, the history may be erased, but it's there somewhere. So sugar is one of the best ways if you want to learn control over someone. And that's why they make it so accessible. Sugar in your drink, sugar in your food. The other day I went to get some chips for a friend, and I was reading the labels. There was sugar in potato chips. I'm like, oh my gosh, sugar's everywhere, right? But going back to choices that we make. So for our bodies, we have that sugar thing, which, look at what has happened to the islands when they introduced sugar, the sugarcane fields, the burning of the sugarcane fields. Hawaii was the number one asthma in the United States for many, many years because the air, when they would burn the sugarcane, was so toxic. It was affecting the lungs. And I remember doing an autopsy one time, or being part of an autopsy. This woman was in her 60s. Her lungs were just peppered with black. I said, oh, she must have been a smoker. And they said, no, she lived next door to a sugarcane field. So when I think about some of the things that we get exposed to without even knowing it, and then we get addicted to it, we want more, right? And we have all of this processed food, and thank gosh Maui has, and other places in the world too. Thank you, all you farmers, all you gardeners that are making food available. Right now I'm living on a piece of property where there's a huge organic garden, kale, chard, oranges, lemons, and arugula. Every day there's fresh food. And I noticed just in a few weeks the difference in the pain in my body. My joints weren't as sore. I had a lot more energy. So when you think about where you're living and the choices that you're making, think about when you go into a health food store or a store, eat around the edges. The best food is always found on the edges. That's where your vegetables are. And as you get closer to the center of the store, that's where your more processed foods are. So I encourage everyone to take the opportunity to invest in yourself, invest in your health. And I remember when I was in my undergrad, that was a long time ago, one of my mentors, Jeannie, she said, you need to eat organic. Well, the organic was $1.39 at the store, and the non-organic was $39. Or 39 cents a pound. $1.39 for organic, 39 for non-organic. And I went, you know what, I can't afford it. I can't afford to eat organics. And she says, pay now or pay later. And it wasn't very long later that I started paying. I really paid big. My first year of medical bills were $80,000, and that was with insurance that I had to pay off, because these foods that I was putting in my body were affecting my ability of my body to thrive. And when you think about your life, we're going to talk about food and what I can't have, but what you can have is the rainbow. Think about the colors in the rainbow. The rainbow, you got your red, your oranges, your yellow, your blues, red, green. When we eat a rainbow every day, there's balance. And we are on the island of rainbows, right? Maui is the island of rainbows. But within each one of you is that rainbow. Your body is a orchestra of musical organs that are saying, I want green, I want red, I want yellow. And I remember when I first started in medicine, one of the things that I would do is they would ask, okay, what do I eat? And that was, I said, stop white. Don't eat white. And they're like, what do you mean? Don't eat white. Well, don't eat anything that's white. So I made it really simple, right? But that wasn't enough because they were so hungry. So then when I started bringing in the eat a rainbow every day, what I noticed was an enormous difference in their body. So right now I want you to think of your refrigerator. What's in there? What's purple? What's blue? What's yellow? What's green? What's red? This morning when I was gathering the eggs, I walked over by the tomato bush and I just picked a couple of those small little tomatoes, wiped them off on my shirt, popped them in my mouth, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there is a heaven, right? So as you are communicating with your body, this place where you live, your body will tell you clearly what you want. But there's a strong division here, if I may say, and I don't like that word. But I remember when I was real young, before I knew anything about health, and I remember thinking, I'm so craving ice cream that I will drive 30 miles to get ice cream. That is not a want of the body. That is the addiction. That is the sugar that was saying, eat me, come here and eat me, right? And I encourage you all to just think about that as you're going through your activities of daily living. What is your body really asking for? And go back to the rainbow. And then as you drop deeper into that communication with your body, what is your heart saying? What is your belly saying? What is your stomach saying? Right? And inside your body, every one of your organs have an emotion associated with it. According to Chinese medicine, according to Ayurvedic, Louise Hay, there's a lot of other systems out there that talk about this, but I'm going to just start with the liver right now because we're all kind of a little irritated with what's going around, or most of us are. And the color that the liver loves is green. And the emotion of the liver is anger. And so people that have a tendency to drink a lot of alcohol, which the liver has to process, they're going to have probably more liver or anger issues. I just was talking with someone today. Their partner just went off at somebody at the dog park. Well, they'd also had a 6-pack of beer, right? So the liver was really, really irritated from the alcohol. And how do we fix the liver? Is one, through the breath, but two, bring in the colors, the rainbow, all the colors of the rainbow, but greens, spirulina, chlorella, some of these things that are blood builders and blood purifiers. And the liver is a big filter system. So we just give it the food that will nurture it so it'll do what it's supposed to do, which is clean out the body and all of that, right? But I'm going to talk about the next really prominent emotion right now, and that is grief. And that the emotions of the lungs is grief. And when we think about the lungs, if you've ever seen a picture of the lungs, and if you haven't, I encourage you to go look in a book, if you have books, or online, and you will see that the lungs look just like a tree. And that's where we have this connection to the earth, the nature of your nature. If you've ever had the opportunity to sit still and watch the trees in the distance, you will actually see them breathe. Trees breathe. One of the things that we do as humans is tend to hold our breath. So right now, let's just take a breath, and when you take that breath, what is ideal is that you inhale, your belly goes out, and as you exhale, your belly comes in and it pushes up the diaphragm so that the air will be released from the lungs. When the grief gets so intense, and especially after a crisis, a death in the family, what we usually see is pneumonia, some kind of a lung condition. One of the treatments is to get back to the breath and get back to the emotion. Talk about it. What are you feeling right now? What's going on in your life, right? And you don't want to just talk to anybody about that because not everybody's able to listen, right? They're not able to hear. But I'm sure you've got somebody in your life that can be there to hear that, right? I hope you do. I'm going to talk about the next thing right now, and that's overwhelm. I went into a store today and I saw two people that I knew, and they were going through things with family members, and as we talked about, what is that primary emotion that you're feeling right now? And that was overwhelm, which is worry. And that's the stomach and the spleen in our body. When we worry too much, what can be one of the side effects is a ulcer, because we worry. And that's stress, right? Let's go back to they and them. When you think about your life, what is it that you can do something about? You can do something about yourself. You have the right. You have the freedom to be yourself. Is that changing as the world is changing? Maybe so. But when we think of Nelson Mandela and he was in prison all those years, no one took away his freedom. No one took away his freedom, even though he was locked and put in a prison, because he knew he had options. He still had a body, he still had a mind, and he still had a spirit, and he communicated with all of those parts of himself. And he came out of there in pretty good shape. So as you think about the world around you, get some perspective, pull yourself a little bit away, and just go, is that mine? This morning, one of the key words that I wrote in my little notebook is, keep my oars in my boat. There's things happening in the world, in people's life. It's none of my business. At the same time, I am extremely compassionate, extremely caring. But there's always a right time to be that. But if I go nettling into someone else's business, that's not my business. Have you ever done that, where you're talking with somebody and then all of a sudden you come up with all these solutions? This is what you should do. This is what you should do, right? Really, it's none of our business. Everybody has their own journey, except for kids. Now, if it's kids, you step in there and you take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. But as we change, as the society changes, we're going to see a difference in the educational system. We're going to be having children that are being educated. They're going to be taught how to think, not just regurgitate back what they've been taught. And so as these children are able to think for themselves and have problem-solving, solution-focused actions in the world, this is where we really see a lot of change. And right now, we are in enormous amount of change. And as I said that, I could feel my lower back just starting to ache a little bit. And the lower back is where the kidneys are. And the emotion of the kidneys is fear. I'm like, okay, now what are you afraid of? What are you really afraid of? Well, one thing I'm afraid of is I don't like to see people suffer. I don't care who it is. I don't like to see people suffer. There again, I went back to keep my oars in my boat. What can I do? I made a phone call the other day. I can't go there. I can't help with that situation, but I made a phone call that to someone that is what they do. And that person was able to go to that person in need and help them, because that's what they do. So I want you to think right now, what is your service to the planet? Why are you here? What is it that you're bringing? And as you ponder that a little bit over the next couple weeks, just allow yourself to have the change. But when we go back to that tea leaf, there's new roots being formed. There's new things happening in my life. My career is taking another move, another creative move. But in that, a lot of those tea leaves are dying. When I came home from the prison that day, my partner and I realized our relationship, it was done. It was complete. So when we make the changes, there is going to be change in the outer world as well. It's just not going to be the same. Now that might be scary to some people, but at the same time, think about life as an adventure. An adventure. You get to do this today. I get to be here with you at Akaku, KAKU, 88.5 FM, Kahului, Maui. How lucky is that, right? You think about where you are right now. Look around. Just take a little glaze around and look. Wow. Look how fortunate you are, right? And then we get to give that gratitude. The gratitude. For some reason, you're still here. You're still here. And there's still music inside of you. There's still music inside of you. What is it that you want to play? What do you want to bring to the world? And if there was anything that I could offer you, just be you. But as I have found, especially over the last year and a half, it's almost in 2 years since the fires here on Maui, there has been a huge awakening within myself. And I am returning to dreams that I had 40 years ago. But now I have, one, the skills and the resources to make that happen. And in your life too, I'm sure you've got a dream of something. So I encourage you to drop into your body, this place where you live. And when you do that, your bones are going to get stronger. Speaking of bones, I did research all over the world. I wanted to see how many women in other countries had osteoporosis. And the place that I found the strongest bones was in Egypt. And these women, when a little girl is born, even the boys, when they're born, they learn to dance. And I never met one woman, and I talked to some of the doctors over there that are specialists in that kind of thing. That isn't an issue there. Osteoporosis is secondary to lack of movement, also lack of creativity. So when we can just find the dance, whatever that dance is, a little skip or maybe it's a full dance, get that body moving. I remember when I wanted to do hula, and I went, oh yeah, I want a hula teacher. That day there was one came into my office, and we ended up bartering. I taught her everything that she needed to know or what I had to offer, and then I started doing hula. Well, one day she came in and she's just crying. She said, "This is so hard, Dr. Valerie." And I'm like, yeah, it's not that hard. You got this, right? Well, then when I started doing hula, oh my gosh, my hands are supposed to be this way, my eyes are supposed to do something else, and my feet were supposed to do something else. I just started sobbing. And that Kumu came over and she just hugged me and she says, "It's not that hard, Dr. Valerie. It's easy." And I went, karma, right? Yeah, what goes around comes around. Yeah. But as we do go back to the dance, whatever it is in your life, and a dance is one of the bows of a dance, one of the things that's lucky about a dance is it brings a smile. And I've talked about this before. When we smile, we use more calories than when we frown. So as we frown, you're not going to use up the calories like we do when we smile. So even if you think something really bad, if we can keep that smile, and there's something about a smile that is effective, right? It just, you walk into a place and pretty soon other people are smiling. Now there may be some that are grouch, whatever. That's all right. Keep that smile on your face wherever you can, whenever you can. And most importantly, look in the mirror and see if you can smile to yourself. You are precious. You are on this planet for a reason. Your soul has something it wants to teach you and also to learn. But it needs this body to make that happen. And that is going back to the nature of your nature. Your soils, which is your stomach, where you digest your foods, are gravely affected by processed foods, sugar, colorings, artificial colorings. We fix our soils, make them nutrient rich by putting in rainbows, lots of kale, spinach, cherries, all the colors of the rainbow. What happens is your digestion gets better. When your digestion gets better, guess what else gets better? Every one of your emotions. Every one of your emotions will get better when your digestion's working better. Sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? Actually, it is. It is. Because this is the amazing thing about this body. It knows how to live. We just get to communicate with it. I'm going to bring that back to Earth. The Earth. Trees and their root systems are all communicating with one another. And that's what we need in our communities, is to communicate with one another. If it's not safe, don't. If it's not safe, don't. And how do you know what's safe? You know, you go to your belly. Man, that doesn't feel right, so I don't think I'm going to do that, right? And then go back to choices and think about the people that make you feel good, give you pleasure. One of my places that I sometimes go is Ross. There's a little gal in there. She's from the Philippines, and she is just one of the kindest, happiest people I've ever seen on the planet. Sometimes I just go in there just to see her because I love her joy and her love of life. In your circle, in your community, find these people, communicate with them, commune with them, and let's create this world that we all really want, which is based on love, compassion, kindness, and equality, and more importantly, autonomy, which is self-sovereignty. We fix it on the inside. We fix it on the inside. It will automatically fix it on the outside. It's been proven, scientifically proven. If I'm eating white flour, white sugar, I'm going to be cranky, and cranky people are going to be attracted to me. It's a law of attraction, right? So as we think about what we want, right now you think about what you want. What do you want different in your life? And what do you need to help you attain that? The other morning I went, I need an expert in XYZ. I no more said it, and someone called me and said, hey, did you hear about this person that moved to the island? They do XYZ. And I went, wow, that was fast. All I had to do is think it, and wham, they showed up. Then it took courage to make that phone call to call and say, hey, do you suppose you can help me out a little bit? I need some help with this. I'm not too sure what to do. So ask. Use your voice. And as we all ask, Whether it's, I need space right now, give me my space, or I need a hug right now. Would you be comfortable giving me a hug? Communicate your needs and then respect others' needs too. And if they say no, that doesn't have anything to do with you. It's what they need. That's what they need. Come home to you no more by being true to yourself. Honor your innate wisdom. Honor the nature of your nature. Because it's a fact. You do no more. Yes, you do. Thank you for joining me today. I hope this gives you a few little nuggets to chew on. Think about the foods you're going to be eating today, tonight. Try the rainbow. And then keep your oars in your boat. But everybody has a different thing. Some people are strong activists, others are not. Whatever it is that you do, let it give you some pleasure. Because in the long run, that's what is going to feed your soul, is the pleasure. So thank you for joining me today. We want to thank the nonprofit You Know More, who is sponsoring us. And have a good life. Hui ho.
The Vegan Society of Hawaii Maui chapter presents Veganize Your World from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. on Saturday, July 19th at the J.W. Cameron Center Auditorium, 95 Mahalani Street in Wailuku.